Hi, I'm Kimberly Grocher, a licensed clinical social worker, yoga teacher, and executive coach. And this is Black Women in Yoga. I created this series because it's something I wish I had when I started my yoga journey 12 years ago. When I first started doing yoga, I hated it. And ultimately, I stopped. At the time when I started doing yoga, it was something that seemed like everybody was doing. So I figured I'd try it. It was being offered at the gym I went to. But when I was in the classes, I felt really out of place. I didn't know what was going on. I felt like my body just wasn't designed to do some of the moves that were being done. And my body didn't look like anybody else's in the class. And then, not to mention, even though I didn't know a lot about yoga, I knew that there were some other principles that were underlying it besides the posture. But I couldn't really get any information. I couldn't really get an understanding of what that was. And I wasn't sure how it ultimately lined up with my own personal beliefs. But then I found yoga again when I started doing meditation. I took a mindfulness based stress reduction course, also called MBSR. And ultimately, I found out what yoga is really about, fell in love with it, and then it led me to become a yoga teacher. And now I teach yin yoga classes, I teach prenatal yoga classes, and I also integrate it into my clinical work with many of my clients. So, this episode looks at what are the benefits of yoga specifically for Black women, right? Because there are a lot of benefits to yoga, and then there are a lot of things that Black women struggle with or but are also prone to that other populations aren't necessarily. And so actually they're actually very compatible. And I wanted to share that information from a mental, spiritual, and physical perspective. So I hope you enjoy.
I know that the word yoga is a Sanskrit Hindu term that means union. So a mind body union that kind of brings everything together towards the divine. So it's almost like trying to become one with the divine. Or it could also mean a balance, creating some kind of balance.
The definition of yoga is like to develop a balanced power. So either it's through meditation, or if it's through breathing, if it's through just different techniques just to balance it out.
For me, yoga has allowed me to be present and mindful up here in my brain, also in my body, just in breath. So it's just a union of all the functions in my body.
For me, yoga is a practice for our physical, psycho-emotional, and spiritual development, and to help us attain higher consciousness, because I think that's the path of the human being, is higher consciousness. And so yoga and its various approaches and branches and lineages all lead to that place of personal development on all of those aspects that are those of the human being, body, mind, and spirit.
But more here, it's like a workout, yoga workout or yoga exercise. So more they are focusing on the physical part of it, getting the posture right. That's really not yoga itself. I mean, by trying to achieve the posture, you have so many benefits, even if you don't really achieve it fully. And it takes time to learn to get there, but you really don't need to get there. It's not a competition.
When I talk about yoga, I am not talking about just something you do on a yoga mat. That's a physical fitness aspect of yoga. Yoga is your life. It is how you move in life. It is how you are with yourself. It is how you are with others. it has a lot to do with moving in truth, with integrity, with compassion, and in love.
Yoga is like music, the rhythm of the body and the melody of the mind and the harmony of the soul create the symphony of life. I love that.
Well, yoga for both men and women have been shown actually to have benefits in terms of health, for cardiovascular health, as well as for mental health, in reducing depression and anxiety, as well as pregnancy outcomes. So we know that that is established, and there have been several studies actually about the benefits of yoga, especially because it combines mind and body as well as breathing techniques. We also know that it improves quality of life and can decrease pelvic pain as well. So there's definitely, for pregnancy, there are definitely some benefits to yoga. The only caveat I would say is if you have any worsening back pain, that you then see your practitioner to make sure there's nothing else that needs to be ruled out, and if also yoga is appropriate for you. We know that 80% of women suffer from premenstrual syndrome, or PMS, and I think you know these things include irritability, rage, emotional outbursts, or feeling like crying or feeling very low, and they can also include physical symptoms like breast tenderness and headache. And so when they did a study comparing yoga to cardiovascular exercise, aerobic exercise, they actually found that yoga did a better job at reducing some of those symptoms, and that was 40 minutes 3 times a week. And then later on in our reproductive life, in perimenopause and menopause, a lot of women also have hot flashes and anxiety, sleep issues, and there are studies that have found that yoga and mindfulness actually decrease some of those symptoms. So there's definitely, very low risk to doing yoga. It helps us unplug from some of the daily things that we do and our phones that can cause us a lot of anxiety. So in general, there's a lot of benefit from yoga, and sometimes even just that social aspect of getting together with people can help.
The quality of life as you get older is much important. You don't notice it as when you're young. With kids, you notice how flexible they are. All their processes are firing. Their muscles are loose. They're supple. You'll not, unless they're doing tech where they're constantly looking on their phone. Most of them are really in good shape. In your 20s, you're in good shape. Your 30s, things start slowing down. So this is when you really need to pay attention to your body. So I need to educate my folks that as they're getting older, it is important for them to get into a program that will help them as they're getting older. It is important. So you can either age gracefully or you can age achily. You know what I'm saying? And I think the gracefully is where the yoga comes in.
The benefits of yoga is just like being present with your thoughts, being present with your body. And then of course, eventually like the flexibility comes. And then that also feels good too, because it shows you like, okay, like the more you practice something, the better you, the more fluid you become in it. And then the flexibility is just like an extra bonus. I think that people initially think of yoga and think like, oh, I'm going to be flexible. And it's just like, no. Don't think about that. Just show up, get on the mat. I feel like yoga will introduce you to yourself. I think that's one of the benefits of yoga.
High blood pressure, that is a hot dominance in Black culture or Black women. Stress, definitely for Black women. I think Black women take on so much stress, either it was with their households, with just being a woman in period, and then being Black on top of that, and household work fields. So definitely stress, anxiety, peer pressure.
The body thing, I think, is super important. I think yoga really teaches you like how uncomfortable sometimes we are in our own bodies.
We're the target sometimes of so many things that undermine our confidence in who we are as women, how we show up in the world as women. As long as we're serving others, which is the role that we have been conditioned to, we're fine. But as soon as we begin to stand up, make our own choices, step into our own beauty, define the way we want it defined without needing acceptance from others, to know that how you showed up is the way you were supposed to show up. Be open so that you can be free and to understand what it means to live and feel free. That is what yoga can do for Black women.